the very latest from here at home and across the world. This is Primetime News live on News First. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
A very good evening. I'm Shane Silva.
As usual, we start off with a look at the stories making headlines tonight.
31 houses destroyed by gale force winds in Polonnaruwa. Atmospheric turbulence persists, torrential rains in many areas. And employees of the Kotapolo Cooperative Society stage a protest obstructing the Akuras-Sadeniaya road.
A strong wind that swept through two divisional secretariat areas in Polonnaruwa have destroyed over 31 houses.
Gale force winds swept through the Tamankadwa and Madirgiriya divisional secretariat areas in Polonnaruwa between 2:30 and 3 this afternoon. The Assistant Director of the Polonnaruwa District Disaster Management Centre, Upul Nanakaru, said that the winds were experienced for less than 10 minutes. 16 houses in the Tamankadwa divisional secretariat area and 15 houses in the Madirgiriya divisional secretariat area were damaged. The Department of Meteorology says rains accompanied by strong winds can be expected these days.
In related news, the Early Warning Center of the Department of Meteorology, which issued a torrential rain warning yesterday, has extended that warning by 12 hours. The department said that the time frame was extended from 1 p.m. this afternoon. The Met Department has requested the public to remain vigilant over the next 24 hours as gale force winds may sweep across the island.
The spill gates of the Kalawawa were reopened after torrential rains were experienced yesterday. Irrigation engineer of the Kalawawa, M.R. Bandara, said that 4,989 cubic feet of water has collected per second at the tank due to rains in catchment areas. The spill gates of the Kalawawa were opened by 4 feet each and 4,149 cubic feet of water is being released per second. The Department of Irrigation has urged the public residing near the Kala Oya to remain vigilant as the spill gates will remain open throughout the night. The water that is released from the Kalawawa flows through the Kala Oya to the Rajangane Reservoir. Therefore, 5 spill gates of the Rajangane Reservoir have also been opened. The Natsuduwa Reservoir has reached spill level and 3 spill gates of the reservoir were opened this afternoon. According to our correspondent in the area, many tanks in the area have reached spill level as a result of torrential rains that were experienced after 4 days. Several tanks in the Vaunia District 2 have reached spill level with the heavy showers experienced last evening. Our correspondent said that around 200 tanks, including the Vaunikulam, Thandikulam and Mailankulam tanks, have reached spill level. Meanwhile, the spill gates of several reservoirs in the Polonnaruwa district were reopened yesterday. All the spill gates of the Parakrama Samudra were opened by 6 inches each and 700 cubic feet of water was released per second. All spill gates of the Minneria Reservoir too have been opened by 7 inches each. (3,100 cubic feet of water is being released per second from the Kaudula Reservoir after its spill gates were opened by 10 inches each. Many low-lying areas in Batiklo have been inundated due to heavy showers. The worst affected were the Manmunai South, Eruvel Pattu, Poratiu Pattu and Pattipanai divisional secretariat areas. Rains experienced over the past 2 days have inundated low-lying areas in Ampara, destroying paddy fields in Nindavur, Oluvil, Tirukkovil, Addalachennai and Akkarai Pattu. Meanwhile, a section of a home in Chinakoratua had collapsed as a result of torrential rains experienced last evening.
Red rain was experienced in the Kirimatia area in Norelia this afternoon. District Secretary DPG Kumarasiri said that red rain samples that were obtained had been directed to the relevant authorities.
Meanwhile, yellow rain was reported from the Kumbukwava area in Negampaha in Anuradhapura today. Our correspondent said that the rainwater was yellow and brown in color. Democratic National Alliance parliamentarian Vijitha Herath says that he was not informed by anyone not to appear before the Court of Appeal. The parliamentarian expressed this view in response to a question raised by a journalist during a media briefing convened by the People's Movement for Democracy today.
කතානායකතුමා හරි කවුරු හරි වාචිකව හෝ ලිඛිතව මට දැනුම් දුන්නේ නැහැ.
I was not informed by the speaker or anyone else, either verbally or in writing, not to appear before the Court of Appeal. However, I received written notices from the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court to appear before court. As public representatives, we are bound to protect the rights of the people. If attempts are made to use the majority in Parliament or certain rules and regulations to take action against us, then we are prepared to face it.
යම් යම් නීති පාවිච්චි කරලා අපිට විරුද්ධව ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න හදනවා නම් ඒ ඕනෑම දෙයකට අපි සූදානම්.
ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන මේ තේරීම් කාරක සභා වාර්තාව මත ඉදිරියට කටයුතු පවත්වාගෙන යාම අධිකරණයෙන් අත්හිටෙව්වොත්
If the judiciary issues an order prohibiting the implementation of the Parliamentary Select Committee report, and if the Parliament continues to act on the report despite the order, it will be a punishable offence under the Constitution. It will have to be decided whether the Speaker and the members who are involved in this are contempts of the court. If an allegation is levelled against the Speaker for contempt of court, and if the allegations are proved and he is found guilty, then he can no longer remain in the position of Speaker.
Issuing a communique, the United National Party says that its stance on the legal framework for the examination of the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice was proven by the historic verdict given by the Supreme Court yesterday. The communique, bearing the signature of General Secretary of the party, Tissat Danayaka, says that they have to sadly remember that the government, certain political groups and lawyers raised objections when the UNP first announced its stance regarding the matter. However, the UNP is pleased to announce that the attempts made by the party and its leader were proven right by the Supreme Court verdict. The communique adds that the impeachment motion is a subject of Parliament and this was proven by the Supreme Court verdict. The UNP, which notes that the verdict has placed an obstacle in the path to dictatorial rule, adds that before further steps are taken regarding the impeachment motion, new laws must be passed in accordance with the Latimer House principles of the Commonwealth.
In other local news, Minister Anura Priyadarshana, who is a former chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee, which examined the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice, says the judiciary, executive and the legislature must function within the limitations of their powers. He made this observation at an event held in Mawatagama today.
The event was held to present certificates to a group who completed the hotel training program.
This is not a problem between the judiciary and legislature. These are those who are trying to create such a conflict, but they all have private agendas. Our government has never tried to create a conflict between the judiciary and legislature. We need every sector in this country to establish their limits and function within them. I would like to quote from a letter addressed by former Chief Justice Sarath Nanda Silva to a newspaper last week. He made a very clear statement. He said that continuously, the judiciary has no power to issue a writ against Parliament. It is our responsibility to act within these limitations. This is common to the judiciary, legislature and the executive. Only if we function within these regulations can we take a government forward in a positive environment.
Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajith Premadasa, says that the Supreme Court's verdict issued yesterday, which notes that the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to examine the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice and its conclusions are inconsistent with the Constitution, is a historic one.
In his communique, MP Sajith Premadasa says that all previous governments in the country followed a tradition of respecting court decisions, adding that as a result, conflicts did not arise between the legislature and the judiciary. However, he says that the current government's ad hoc activity has entangled it and the entire country in a complex web. Premadasa notes that the right to interpret the constitution of the country rests with the Supreme Court. He adds that Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa himself has within the Parliament chamber confirmed the Supreme Court's right to interpret the constitution. Therefore, Premadasa urges the government to bow to the Supreme Court's decision and nullify the Parliamentary Select Committee and the conclusions reached by it under Standing Order 78A of Parliament. He concludes that failure to do so would result in a mass public campaign to strengthen the Supreme Court's decision. Premadasa says this is because if a climate where the rulers can interfere in the independence of the judiciary is created, then an unfortunate situation could arise where the supremacy of the people is undermined. The communique issued by Sajid Premadasa reiterates that if the people rise up, it would not only bring the existence of the government to a decisive point, but it would also have a direct impact on the future of the country.
Let's now take a look at the newspaper story of the day, which we selected from amongst today's English newspapers.
Prime Minister D.M. Jayaratne visited Temple Trees last evening to extend his wishes to the President for the new year. The Presidential Media Unit said that the President in turn wished the Prime Minister and his family for the new year before engaging in a cordial discussion.
United National Party parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake expressed the following views regarding the new tax regime at a media briefing convened in Colombo today.
When you go to the supermarket today, you can see that VAT has increased by 12%. Even for death today, prices have increased by 300%. The 30 rupee marriage registration fee has been increased to 5,000 rupees. We can see that the government is trying to increase its revenue from everywhere, mainly due to its lack of skill and inability to bear losses. The governor of the central bank has himself said that the country's debt burden has increased by 278 billion rupees as a result of the depreciation of the rupee. So per capita debt in the country, which was 91,000 rupees in 2005, has now increased to 338,000 rupees.
Treasury Secretary P.B. Jayasundara says that in accordance with the present tax regime, individuals with incomes of up to 100,000 rupees in the first tax bracket will only be required to pay an income tax of 2%. He made this statement at a media briefing convened in Colombo today on amendments to the tax regime in 2013.
Up to 50,000 rupees, don't pay tax. We don't insist you to pay, so you have a comfortable living. Anything above 50,000 up to 100,000, you will have to pay only 4%. So it's peanuts if you have that kind of income. So technically up to 100,000 rupees a month, this country now pay only 2%. That message must go.
The Seema Sammata Punya Mahotsavya of the Markandana Sankalpa Vihara in Kasbaba was held yesterday. This religious event was held under the patronage of the Anunayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam Mahanikaya.
40 monks from the Malwatu chapter attended the event. A vihara can be converted into a Mahavihara once this ceremony is completed. The completion of the ceremony will also grant the vihara the authority to ordain novice monks. A group including UNP parliamentarian Karu Jayasuriya also attended this religious event yesterday.
There were
10,972 temples in the country, but 1,700 of those temples were closed in the recent past. This poses a threat to the existence of Buddhism in this country. Furthermore, 800 monks have given up their robes. Organizing of such events will help to rebuild the Buddha Sasana and to create disciplined monks in the country, which would in turn strengthen Buddhism in the country. This is a valuable act.